I got on all black because it's a funeral on Sunday. But whose funeral will we be witnessing? Will the Chargers, after their 3-0 start, lose to 2 straight NFC East opponents? Or will the Commanders fall below 500 for the first time this season? This is my Chargers vs. Commanders NFL Week 5 game preview. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we are here to talk about the Washington Commanders going across the country to take on the Los Angeles Chargers in the fifth game week of the 2025 NFL season. Now, word of warning, disclaimer here for Chargers fans. I am a Commanders fan. You can see that right here, but I am going to try to be as unbiased as possible throughout this game preview. Also, one other thing I feel like I should be sharing right now because it's pretty relevant. I'm recording this preview on Tuesday night. Haven't figured out exactly when I'm posting this video, sometime Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But when you see this, I'm going to be traveling because I hinted that there was some big personal news coming to this channel pretty soon. Well, the personal news is here. By the time you're watching this, I'm an engaged man. Hopefully, if I'm not, you guys might not get videos for another day or week or month or year. I don't know. I'm going to have to climb out of a deep pit of depression if it doesn't work out. But fingers crossed, and with your prayers, everything will have gone swimmingly. Me and the lady were traveling down on Wednesday morning. We were setting up for a very nice trip. She knows nothing about what's coming her way. And hopefully I'll be able to come back to the channel towards the end of the week with more details on how everything goes. I know how it's lined up, but we'll see what happens. But you didn't come here for any of that stuff. You came here to talk about the pigskin. Chargers, Commanders, AFC, NFC. Big game for both teams. Again, the Chargers lost to the NFC East team, to the New York Giants last week. They're trying to avoid 2 straight losses. Meanwhile, the Commanders hoping to pick up a win in what looks like it will be Jayden Daniels' return to the lineup. Guys, we're about to jump into every aspect of this game. But before we do, make sure you do hit the like button. Lets me know that you are enjoying the content that is coming here to the channel, whether you are a Commanders fan, whether you are a Chargers fan, whether you won my first 20 subscribers, whether you just clicked subscribe on the last video, whether you haven't clicked it yet. Everybody, here's what I want you to do. First of all, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Second of all, make sure you go to the comment section and leave me your prediction and your thoughts why. That is the biggest thing about this channel. It's a community. It's not just me. It's you. You're a part of it. If you're here watching this, whether it is your first time, you are here. So contribute. I love the conversations. I love hearing input from our fans, from rival fans. I love the perspective. So I'll be reading every comment and responding to as many as I possibly can. Give me a little bit of slack because I am still going to be traveling when this video goes out, but I will do my best to respond. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk injuries real quick, and then we'll break down offense versus offense, defense versus defense, key players, and get to my final score prediction. So, injury notes on the Commanders side of the ball. Keep in mind, I'm recording this on Tuesday night, so I can't definitively say this is what's happening. And as we go through this, I'm going to be giving you my prediction based on what my current assessment is. So, John Bates, blocking tight end for the Commanders, plays number 2 to Zach Ertz, said that he expects to be back for the weekend. Jayden Daniels is widely expected to be back. The Commanders put him through a pretty rigorous workout last Saturday, the day before that Falcons game. He also did not travel to Atlanta to work on treatment and rehab. Supposedly the workout went well. The general expectation is he will be back. Now, we do not have updates on the Terry McLaurin front. Personally, I am guessing he will not play. That is not confirmed by the time this video goes out. Hopefully you have a better understanding than I do right now. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, along with the other injured reserve guys, the Jonathan Joneses, the Austin Ecklers, the Dietrich Wises of the world, they are all out. And Sam Cosmi potentially targeting a week 6, maybe week 7 return, but week 5 looks to be too early. Does not sound like he will be playing in this game. On the Chargers side of the football, the bookend tackles. You remember when the Chargers win the conversation for one of the best offensive lines in the league? Well, now Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, they're all Pro Bowl caliber players. Tackles, they're both gone. So huge losses for the Chargers in that front. Mekhi Becton did not play over the weekend. He is working on returning from a concussion. He is still in concussion protocol. As I'm recording this video, we are waiting to see what his status will be for the weekend. Najee Harris out with the torn Achilles. Brutal play. Eckler and Najee both doing torn Achilles. Sucks for them. I heard Jason Tatum talking about there's an NBA Achilles group chat with him and Dame and Tyrese Halliburton and DeJounte Murray. I wonder if there's an NFL equivalent of that. And also, it just really feels like Achilles injuries are piling up in the last couple of years for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe the players are just getting so physically advanced that they're putting more strain on their joints and tendons than the human body's meant to handle. But whatever the reason is, hopefully Najee and Eckler and these guys can find the support they need to go through their recovery process. Also out for the Chargers, Khalil Mack, Denzel Perryman, Junior Colson, and a couple of other players as well. So let's jump into this preview. We're going to start with Commanders offense, then we'll go Chargers offense, then we'll go Commanders defense, Chargers defense, and get to my final prediction. So even with Jayden Daniels returning to the lineup, this is what I want to say. Number one, establish the run. If you are Cliff Kingsbury, establish the run. No player on the Commanders has recorded more than 11 carries in one game. That was Chris Rodriguez Jr. in his first game of the season after being called up off practice squad, which is confusing to me, not going to lie, against the Las Vegas Raiders. Bill had the second most carries in a game when he had 10 in week 1 against the New York Giants. So first games of the season for both players. Last week against the Falcons, both those guys did really well. They combined for 14 carries for 100 and something yards. Bill averaged 6.7 yards per carry. C-Rod averaged, I want to say, 8.4. He had that big 48-yard explosive run. They did a very nice job. Now, looking into their numbers a little bit further, Bill Croskey-Merritt, as far as all qualified NFL running backs, he is second in yards per carry at 5.9. Only Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars is higher at 6.1. Bill is also fourth in yards after contact per carry, seventh in explosive play rate, and first in success rate. Success rate is a measure of staying ahead of the chains. On first down, do you get at least 50% of the yards you need? On second down, do you get at least 70% of the yards you need? And on third and fourth down, do you get 100% of the yards you need to pick up a first down? So if we're assuming first and 10, then that would mean, do you get to second and 5? Do you get to third and 3? And then do you pick up the first down? That's success rate in a nutshell. Bill is leading the NFL in productiveness in that category. Now, C-Rod might not have as many advanced metrics behind him, but he is still doing a very nice job. He's averaging 5.4 yards per carry, which while it's not the 5.9 that Bill has, he is still 8th among all running backs with 20-plus carries. So if you're listening to this, just keep in mind, the Commanders' 2 running backs, they've got 2 of the top 8 spots in the NFL in yards per carry. So they're doing a very effective job. The Commanders as a team are second in EPA per rush play, EPA being a measure of scoring efficiency, and 5th in success rate per rush play. I just explained success rate. Hopefully you still remember it. Despite the positive signs, the team ranks 9th in rushing play percentage. Now, that's not low. Obviously, it is in the top 10. When we look at these numbers and we sort of internalize them and think about what they mean in the context of Jayden Daniels also returning to the lineup, also, got to admit, the offensive line looks like it's doing a better job generating the initial push with Chris Paul and with Andrew Wiley joining the lineup in place of Brandon Coleman and Nick Allegretti. We've seen them for 2 weeks now. I felt that way in both of those games. With all that's combined, 9th in rushing percentage, no, it's not low, but could it be higher? Could we get to maybe top 5? I believe their rushing play percentage right now is about 44%. Can we get that up to 50% or so? When you're traveling across the country to play a team on the road, a team that you don't see very often, a team that is coming off of a tough loss, a very good team with a very strong defense, I think it certainly would be wise to go out of your way to establish the run. And not only establish, but maintain it. And what we have seen from the Commanders back so far this season, they are capable of doing that. The distribution of the carries is sort of where they lose me. Again, 9th in rushing percentage, but the distribution's a little strange. When Austin Eckler was still available, it was like, okay, why are we running up the A gap with Austin Eckler against the Packers so much? And then with C-Rod and Bill being the backfield committee, why do they rip off explosive plays and then we put McNichols in? Or why does C-Rod go for an explosive play and then it's Bill's turn? Or why does Bill get a 10-yard rush and then he's on the sidelines? Why is Bill not getting carries until the second quarter, which I think has happened in 3 of the 4 games now? The distribution is just a little funky to me. I think Cliff, it's only been a month. He's probably still looking for some balance. But hopefully he's figured it out. You've got a month to self-scout, and hopefully you can look back on the tape and figure out a better game plan moving forward. Not that the game plan has necessarily been poor, because the running game has been effective, but again, finding more balance, finding more rhythm, more flow, so you can control the time of possession, stay ahead of the chains, etc., etc. Now, Jayden Daniels obviously is making his return, like I mentioned, and that is a massive deal, because last year, Jayden Daniels was one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Did not get off to that start through the first 2 games of the season. The first game, I don't know how much of that we're actually going to put on him, because he didn't practice with his top 2 receivers during the offseason. Also, a couple of his linemen, both guards, they were new compared to last year, and Brandon Coleman suffered an injury. Josh Connolly was a rookie. So I don't know how much we're going to blame on that first game, how much blame we're going to put on Jayden for not performing well. Now, the Packers game, worst game that I've seen him play. He looked a little scared. He looked a little timid. He was missing reads. So it definitely could have been better. The reason that I have some faith in how Jayden can perform in this game is because we know he loves the VR reps. So even while he was injured, there's no doubt in my mind that he was still getting reps in mentally. Now, those don't translate to physical reps. And again, he still lacks practice time with Noah Brown. He still lacks practice time with Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin also, if I didn't mention this already, doesn't seem like he's going to play, at least as I'm recording this on Tuesday night. So we got to wait and see what happens there. But Jayden, he's only played 3 top 10 defenses in his NFL career. I bring this up because the Chargers right now have a top 5, top 3 defense even. So looking at Jayden's games against those elite defenses, last year, I know he said he only played 3 of them, but he ended up playing 5 games because he had 1 against the Lions, 1 against the Steelers, 3 against the Eagles. And by the way, the metric I'm using to measure what is a top 10 defense, top 5 defense, it's EPA per play allowed. So in those games last season, Jayden Daniels averaged 241 passing yards per game, 41 rushing yards per game. He had 9 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 4 interceptions. So not terrible. A lot of volume, about 300 yards per game, 2-to-1 sort of touchdown to interception ratio, but not as efficient, a little looser with the ball than we have seen him against lesser opponents. So this is going to be a very good test for him. Again, he's from California, so I'm sure he feels comfortable there, but it is flying across the country after 2 weeks off, after you got off to a slow start to the season against a great defense. How are you going to perform? My number one priority here, if I want Jayden to feel as comfortable as he can, set up the running game. Continue to see if you can generate that push with the offensive line. Laramie Tunsil has been excellent in pass protection. I mentioned that there seems to be more strength, more power with the additions of Chris Paul and Andrew Wiley. Josh Connolly Jr. was solid the last 2 games after a real baptism by fire. The only big question mark that I'm yet to mention is the receiver room. Now, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane showed some stuff last weekend, but are you elevating Chris Moore? Are you elevating Tay Martin? You just signed Robbie Chosen to your practice squad. What are the receivers going to do in this matchup? You got to pay attention to that. Now, let me flip this over to the Chargers offense, which so far this season ranks 13th in success rate, 18th in EPA per play. Now, some big notes here. Remember how I said that Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt are both out injured? Well, over the last 2 weeks, Justin Herbert was pressured 46 times. 46 pressures he has endured in the last 2 weeks. That's 11 more than the next highest in the NFL, which is Joe Flacco with 35. So Herbert is facing 33% more duress than the second most pressured NFL quarterback right now. Just to put into perspective what he is dealing with. He was also pressured on more than 50% of his dropbacks after Joe Alt left the game with his ankle injury against the Giants last week. Now, the Giants, I've said numerous times, I think have the best defensive line in football. They have not performed to that standard so far. Let me make that clear. They have not lived up to that hype, but they still have a ton of talent. The Commanders do not have that level of talent on their defensive line, yet the Commanders' defensive metrics actually look better than the Giants. So how does that even out, and what role does that play in this matchup? That's a big thing for the Chargers. Get your protection plan right. Without Najee, you're going to be playing Omarion Hampton a bunch of snaps as a rookie running back. How does his pass protection hold up, especially if the Commanders get back to that aggressive style of defense? We got to wait and see how that plays out. Justin Herbert right now, I believe he's still 3rd in MVP odds. I know for a fact he was 3rd in MVP odds after 3 weeks of football. He has really good numbers overall. He's 4th in passing yards with 1,063, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's 12th in QBR. But this is where it gets interesting. So he's only 20th in EPA per play out of 33 quarterbacks when he's pressured. This is a big deal because I was just talking about the pressure that he has faced ever since his tackles went out of the lineup, specifically last week when he lost both of them. So again, 20th in EPA per play when he is pressured. He's also the 6th most blitzed quarterback in the NFL. So the word is out there on Justin Herbert. And I'm not saying that he crumbles or that he's bad when he's blitzed, but if you want to reduce his effectiveness, that's done by blitzing him, generating pressure. And here's the thing. With those backup tackles, if you're the Commanders, can you afford to not blitz and still generate pressure with 4? That would go a long way to getting Herbert, knocking him off the spot, making him more ineffective. Justin Herbert, when he is pressured, throws into tight windows at the 2nd highest rate in the NFL. The only quarterback who throws into tight windows more frequently is Jake Browning. So when you talk about having opportunistic corners, if Marshon Lattimore's still that guy, if you drafted Mike Sainer still to be that guy, if you drafted Trey Amos to be that guy, these are the opportunities. Because Herbert's got a lot of arm talent. Some of the highest amount of arm talent in the entire NFL. But it's those high talent guys that often, I don't want to say get in their own way, but sometimes they can right their own mistakes because they look at it and they say, man, I know I can fling that right in there. And there's guys bearing down on him. It's a tight window throw. Herbert says, I know that I can do it. And he throws it and it's online and it will get there. But maybe because of the pressure, a defensive lineman smacks his arm just a little. And now the arm's off platform and you miss. Or maybe the ball gets tipped at the offensive line or at the defensive line. And then it gets tipped and goes to an interception. Sorry, I just completely lost my train of thought there. I've got a total brain fart there. But the point being, Herbert's aggressiveness and his confidence in himself can be used against him if the Commanders' defense does what they are supposed to. And that's what the numbers tell you. Herbert only completes 38% of his passes when he is pressured. He has 286 yards in 55 attempts this season, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. When he's not pressured, run and hide. He completes 78% of his passes. He's 8th in EPA per play. He does an elite job of running the offense. It is a high play action offense. The Chargers use play action at the 5th highest rate in the entire NFL. If you're the Commanders defense, eye discipline, key. Read the pulling guards. Wait to see the ball go into Omarion Hampton's stomach before you crash down. Don't creep down because although they use this play action and although the average depth of target on these throws is pretty low, they do have Quentin Johnston running deep downfield. And we have seen lots of miscommunications from this Commanders secondary so far. So those deep shots will be open if you bite on that play action. So you got to watch out for that. Now, with me saying that, the Commanders defense has actually defended play action pretty well for the most part. They're 21st in EPA allowed per play, 21st set in a good way in this aspect. So that would be what? That would be the 11th or 12th best mark in the NFL because you got to flip it around. So just outside the top 10 at defending play action, although admittedly, they haven't seen a quarterback like Justin Herbert. Jordan Love's good. I don't think he's on Justin Herbert's level. So this will be a big test for them. Omarion Hampton is coming off of a monster game against the Giants. Now, it was the Chargers' first loss of the season, but it was Hampton's best game of his career. Just like Ashton Genty broke out for the Raiders against the Bears last week, Hampton broke out for the Chargers against the Giants. He only got 12 carries, but he took them for 128 yards and a touchdown, and he caught 5 receptions for 37 yards. Hampton ranks 3rd in yards before contact per carry. Okay, remember when I said Bill Croskey-Merritt, I think I said was 4th in yards after contact per carry. Omarion Hampton is 3rd in yards before contact per carry. So he does a nice job of reading the blocks, finding his hole, picking his spots, and then going. Also, it is a testament to the offensive line. We'll see how that does without the 2 tackles, though. We do have to keep that in mind. Hampton is also 5th in attempts per broken tackle. So in other words, he's breaking tackles at the 5th highest rate in the entire NFL. As far as the receivers go, Ladd McConkey's been pretty quiet this year, considering the standard that he set for himself last year. Quentin Johnston is actually the team leader in receptions, targets, and receiving yards. He is the deep downfield threat. Keenan Allen going to control a lot of that short intermediate work. Both Allen and McConkey are averaging about 10 yards per reception. Johnston is up at the 15-16 mark. He's a tall, physical guy with a bit of a limited route tree and not the greatest hands in the world, but he can catch these deep passes. He's shown that ever since Jim Harbaugh came into town, he's been very good at that sort of stuff. So if I'm trying to pick a matchup for Marshon Lattimore, who's drawn a lot of ire recently, that's who I would want him on. A guy who, for the most part, where he's going to go. Again, limited route tree, physical guy, get on him, press him, try to knock him off his spot, and play aggressive. Herbert's going to throw the balls up there, so take your chances. Get a PBU, get an interception, whatever you can come up with. Talking about the Commanders' defense, they are third in pressure rate in the entire NFL. Now, they were off their game last week, but that is also a bit of a credit to what the Falcons did. They had Penix on rollouts, some quick plays. They established the run early and often, lots of passes to the running backs, did a good job of keeping the Commanders' defense off balance. I don't think their defensive line did a bad job overall, but as far as getting to the quarterback, they did not do that. Only 1 sack and 2 quarterback hits. With the Chargers loving this play action style, do you get Herbert on some rollouts? How does the Commanders pass rush do at defending that? Also, keep in mind here, no Javonte Jean-Baptiste, obviously no Dietrich Wise as well. You signed Preston Smith. He's got to have a role in this game because you're running out of players. You've got Dorrance Armstrong, Von Miller, Jacob Martin, and then after that, who is it? Oh, yeah, it's Preston Smith, and maybe you got to go sign another guy off the street. But point being, with the tackles being the weak spot on the Chargers offensive line, despite these injuries, you got to get in there and you got to make some noise. Now, you remember how I said that Omarion Hampton ranks 3rd in the NFL in yards before contact per carry? Well, shout out to the big boys up front. Daron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Eddie Goldman, Jerzon, Johnny Newton. The Commanders allowed the 5th fewest rushing yards before contact per carry. So again, Omarion Hampton, 3rd most yards before contact per carry. Commanders, 3rd fewest or 5th fewest yards allowed before contact per carry. So you need a big day from the big guys in the middle of the offensive line. And if you can successfully clog the interior, does that mean that the Chargers are working on double teams? Are they working duos in the middle of the line? And that sets it up so that you can get single blocks on the outside, which right now is the weakness of the Commanders' defensive front. But can you set that up? Can you work yourselves in a situation, even on passing downs? Can you get one-on-one blocks from the outside? Can you get a linebacker blitzing and getting picked up in pass pro by a running back? Can you create those situations for yourself by winning on the interior? That is a big point of emphasis for the Commanders in this game. And then Herbert is only 23rd in deep pass rate, but Michael Penix Jr. was not exactly airing the ball out himself, and we saw him connect on some deep shots against the Falcons. So be wary. If you're the secondary, be wary of the play action setting up the deep shots because this defense has gotten burned on numerous deep plays. One final time, Chargers love their play action. Don't let that be the death of you in this game. Talking about the Chargers defense real quick before I get to my final score prediction, the Chargers have not given up more than 21 points in a game this season. Now, their offense hasn't exactly been very high scoring either. They believe they scored 27 points in week 1. Yes, 27 points against week 1 or in week 1 against the Chiefs. But if we're talking about games played in America, they have not gotten past 23 points yet. The Commanders got 27 with a backup quarterback and 41 with a backup quarterback in the last 2 weeks. But they win against the Raiders 20-9. They beat the Broncos 23-20, and they lose to the Giants at 21-18. That game was on the road. I'll give them that. They are going back to their home stadium. Now, the Chargers defense, despite them not giving up more than 21 points in a game this season, they're only 22nd in pass rush win rate and 17th in run stop win rate. It's pretty confusing when you think about how strong of a defense the Chargers actually have. I don't know how they're not better in the trenches, but I guess it's a testament to Jesse Minter and the zone coverage style of defense that he calls. The Chargers use light boxes at the 5th highest rate in the entire NFL, and they allow the 4th most yards per rush when using light boxes. So they prefer to be in light boxes, and when they are there, they give up 6.5 yards per carry. As far as light box usage and efficiency against the run, the Falcons and the Chargers were nearly identical. Different opponents, yes, but the Commanders last week averaged 5.8 yards per rush against the Falcons' light box. That's a solid number. The problem is it was a lot of explosives and then shorter plays mixed in. Their success rate against light boxes was only 40%. If you were to rank that against the entire NFL, it would come in at 22nd for the year overall. So you have to be more efficient if you're the Commanders against that Chargers light box when you are running the ball. The Chargers last week only gave up 111 passing yards to Jackson Dart, but they did let him become a threat running the ball. So again, if you're the Commanders, be efficient and mix in the Jayden Daniels design runs, read options, things like that. That's where you help yourself out. The Chargers defense blitzes at the third lowest rate in the entire NFL. They love to play a ton of zone coverage. Like I said, Jesse Minter is a savant. The Commanders have to show a willingness to run them out of it. Again, this game comes back to the run. So now we've hit the point in the video where I give my final score prediction. Here's what I'm going to say. The run game is everything if you are the Commanders in this one. For the Chargers, you got to do what you do. Make the Commanders prove that they can run the ball efficiently, and they are committed to it. They're willing to run on 60% of plays until you creep down, and then you open up space for Jayden Daniels. Also, if you're the Chargers, you don't have to worry about your secondary as much as you would against another opponent, because if Terry and Noah aren't playing, you just got to worry about maybe bracketing Zach Ertz, and beyond that, the occasional deep shots to Jalen Lane. But until Jalen Lane, until Luke McCaffrey, until Chris Moore prove to you that they are a legitimate threat, you don't have to honor them that much. Again, Jayden Daniels coming back. We have high expectations for him in a vacuum, but he wasn't great to start the year. And now that he's off of 2 weeks of rest with an injury, and he's going against a really good defense. How is he going to look? On the flip side, if you're the Chargers, offensive tackles, giving up pressure. It's been a massive, massive problem for you, especially in the last 2 weeks. You're going against weak edge rushers for the most part, but the interior defensive line of the Commanders has been really good, especially against the run. So, Omarion Hampton getting all those yards before contact. Is that going to hold? And if it does not, do you find yourself in 2nd and 8, 3rd and 7? Can you convert from a long way away from the first down marker when you are in 3rd down? The Falcons did a tremendous job on 3rd down last week. Until that point in the season, the Commanders had the number 1 3rd down defense in the NFL. And then on the flip side, your defense, are you able to hold up? Are you able to continue to use your preferred light box if the Commanders are finding success on the ground? And how do you do defending against Jayden Daniels? You got some injuries of your own. It's a speedy guy. What is his effectiveness as a runner versus the speed and the integrity, the intelligence, the discipline of the middle of your defense? All questions that will define this matchup. Okay, time for my prediction. I'm going to say this is an extremely, extremely close game. It's going to end in heartbreak for one of these teams. Whoever loses is going to think, man, that was a really big missed opportunity. We should have won that. I'm going to take the Los Angeles Chargers to win this game, 24-23. I think, again, 1-point win at home. I would give this to the Commanders if they had Dietrich Wise or if they had Javonte Jean-Baptiste. If they just had a little more juice outside to rush the passer, I would give it to them. Or if one of Terry McLaurin or Noah Brown were healthy, I would probably give it to them. But I think the big areas, number one, supporting your quarterback. Like I said, setting up the run. But you use the run to set up the pass plays. If you don't have the punch, if you think of the run as like a jab, and then your passing plays, that's your cross, that's your hook. You have the jab, you don't have the cross or the hook coming in, or the cross or the straight, sorry. You don't have that coming in. And then on the flip side of that, the number one advantage you could have in this game, taking advantage of the Chargers' weak offensive line in pass pro, I don't feel like you have that either. So some missed opportunities there from a personnel standpoint due to injuries, of course, but it is the reality of the situation. So I'm going Chargers 24, Commanders 23. Unfortunately, I do think it's a loss for the boys, a win for the Bolts. Guys, make sure you go to the comment section. Leave me your thoughts on this game. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're new around here. Again, thoughts, scores. What do you think of my predictions? Where did I get it right? Where did I go wrong? All that stuff. I look forward to reading all of your comments. But I'm going to go ahead and head on out of here. As I always say, I will catch you in the next one. Have a great day.